Yeah, I think it has affected to a great extent, right? Because we are used to social interaction. We're used to meeting people. We were used to, I should say. It's been over a year and a half of the pandemic, which has really affected how we feel about our relationships. So there've had to be a lot of renegotiating relationships, whether it be friendships or familiar relationships or anything like that. There's been a lot of even work relationships, of course, when they have moved to a virtual space as opposed to, in person. That's been a big change. So in terms of, if we start with families, there's been a lot of forced interaction somewhat, where there's almost like an overt forced connection that was present because when you're at home, when you're working from home and you do not have that space where you have a routine, you go out, then you come back home, and then you spend time with your family or you're around them. When you're constantly around them, the expectations are of course different. And so there would be times where you want your own space, or you do not feel like maybe being around your family that much or spending that much time with them. But you feel like you don't have much of a choice. And it's that the one thing that I think a lot of people feel, in this pandemic, and that has been brought up, is again a lack of control. And we, like as individuals, thrive in control. And when we feel like that's been taken away from us in terms of both our, relationships, but also in terms of knowing where are we going with this? Like, is this a short-term thing? Is this when is the end? There've been so many false ends. So the way we, approach those relationships or the dynamics or how to go about it have also been different, because when it's a short-term thing, you of course, you have a different mindset when you're going into it. But when, it just doesn't seem to be ending, when it's uncertain, when it's just the unpredictability of it, that of course creates a lot of feelings of anxiety and just like not having control over what to do next, what's the next step. So my thoughts on that are that, some of us, we do tend to derive our self-worth and value from the other. And the locus is external. So it is dependent on external validation. And when that's the case, and, we see ourselves through the lens of another, that's how we feel good about ourselves, is because of how the other perceives us, or how the other person is treating us. So then when we're in the middle of a pandemic and when we're isolated and when we remove the other, then what happens? Like, what happens to the sense of self? What are we left with? It can feel like a huge loss and make you question, that when I'm left to my own devices, like, who am I? If I was always perceiving myself, or my worth or my identity was so attached to how others see me, how others view me, or the validation that I'm getting, that I'm good enough, then when the other is removed, again, who am I? So that, of course, is not a fun place to be at. That's not a great thought, but that is again something that leads to anxiety, but and which people have struggled in the pandemic with, is sitting with themselves and sitting with that discomfort, and introspecting and reflecting on, like, oh yeah, actually, like, who am I outside of this external world that I've become so dependent on, that I didn't realize till it was taken away. That's when, it came to my attention that, wow, that's how much I needed it. For extroverts, sometimes you feel that, for certain extroverts, they might feel that, it's a desire that we want to be around people. But a pandemic or situations like this make you realize, well, no, it's turned into a need, actually. And, again, what am I without the show that I may put on in front of people, or that, and how then that performance was reacted to, and how that used to help me gain a sense of self, or, how I understood myself through that lens, and now that's gone. So how do I understand myself better? How do I sit with the uncomfortable feelings that are coming up with that?